The greatest is like weightlifting. You ever see the weightlifting? Where they have a record that wasn't broken in 18 years? And they have, should I imitate it? You know, my wife gets very upset when I do this. She said, darling, it's not presidential. I said, yeah, but people like it.
Donald Trump doesn't need a teleprompter to stir up chaos. He just needs a stage, a mic, and apparently, a wife to humiliate. What was supposed to be a standard speech quickly turned into an accidental episode of Real Housewives of Mar-a-Lago, with Melania playing the horrified +1. One moment he's raving about fake news, the next he's tossing verbal grenades at his own marriage like it's a demolition derby. Melania's face, a mix of "I'm fine" and "I've made terrible life choices." The crowd laughed, but Melania, not so much. Welcome to the roast no one asked for, but somehow no one can stop watching.
And she's gonna do it. Mom, I love you. I'm gonna do it for you, Mom. And she goes, and she lives, and she gets it. And Mom, I'm gonna do it, Mom. Can't do it.
Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss this one. You see, when Donald Trump takes the stage these days, it's less of a rally and more like a live-action train wreck starring one man and his unchecked ego. But just when you think you've witnessed the wildest plot twist in this reality TV presidency, he decides to publicly drag his own wife, Melania Trump, into his latest fever dream of a speech. She made it clear she didn't want to be mentioned, but of course, Trump did it anyway. After all, if there's one thing he can't resist, it's doing exactly what you told him not to, especially when it involves humiliating someone else for a little applause.
I want to do another thing because it's a Saturday and, you know, it's boring. There's nothing good on television. We'd rather do this anyway, wouldn't we?
Picture this, University of Alabama. A crowd gathered expecting a typical political show, maybe a bit of fiery rhetoric, a few outrage-filled sound bites. Instead, they got an elderly man unraveling on stage, ranting about transgender athletes, threatening governors, and hold on, doing cartoonish impressions of Olympic weightlifters, all while casually name-dropping his wife like she's just another punchline in his solo performance.
Not only did he say that his wife was going to be mad at him for the disgusting transphobic remarks that he made, he then humiliated himself in his weird little meltdown on stage.
Let's be clear, this wasn't just another strange Trump moment, it was a full-on meltdown. A bizarre festival of transphobia wrapped in disjointed, rambling anecdotes, all delivered in a tone that screamed, "Grandpa yelling at clouds." It was as if he took every half-remembered Fox News segment from a sleepless night, mashed them into a chaotic speech, and threw in an imaginary exchange where Melania scolds him for not being presidential. Yes, he actually did a Melania impression, because of course what we all needed in 2025 was Donald Trump performing bad Melania impressions while ranting about volleyball injuries.
Didn't see her much on the campaign trail, and we've barely seen her at all now that Donald Trump is, unfortunately, president. And of course, I'm talking about his wife, Melania, who's barely come up at all during this presidency until Donald Trump brought her up in what was an incredibly strange meltdown of a speech at the University of Alabama when Donald Trump brought up Melania against her wishes, explicitly talking about how angry and humiliated she would be for Donald Trump to say what he said.
So why did Melania's name even come up in the first place? Well, surprise, surprise, Donald's in trouble again. But this time, he's pulling his wife into the spotlight as a deflection tactic, like a kid blaming the dog for eating his homework. Except instead of homework, it's his crumbling legal defense. And instead of a dog, it's Melania, who's been quietly side-eyeing the circus from Mar-a-Lago for the past 8 years. But let's take a step back. Why this bizarre speech? Why now? And why of all things weightlifting?
Something that was barely covered by the media, and he is only bringing up because of some recent legal.
It all kicked off when Trump decided to pick a fight with Maine's governor, Janet Mills. Because obviously that's what strong, competent leaders do. They threaten to defund an entire state's schools over transgender inclusion in sports. Very normal, very stable behavior. Trump basically told the governor to bow to his will or risk losing all federal funding, which of course is the kind of nuanced diplomacy we've come to expect from the man who thinks TikTok is a national security threat but can't spell Yosemite. Mills, however, didn't back down. She looked him square in the eye and said, "See you in court." And guess what? She won. That's right.
Has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Not here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat...
So Donald Trump was attacking Governor Janet Mills because she was planning to follow the state and federal law and protect trans athletes in schools.
Now, imagine being Melania in this moment. You're probably somewhere sipping cucumber water and Googling how to disappear completely when suddenly your husband, who still thinks crowd size matters more than facts, is on stage turning your private frustrations into a public punchline. It's giving "I'm trapped in a sitcom I never signed up for" vibes. And what did this circus sideshow accomplish? Absolutely nothing except making Trump look even more unhinged. But don't worry, he had more disasters to juggle. While he was out there ranting about volleyballs hitting women too hard, yes, actual words from his speech, the real crisis was happening behind the scenes. His legal woes were piling up like overdue library books, and the judges? Not exactly feeling generous with extensions. This whole outburst was just a cheap diversion. Classic Trump. Distract, deflect, and drag everyone else down with you. Even your reluctant first lady.
Even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
And if you're thinking, wow, that's a new low, hold on. We haven't even reached the part where he tried to mock Olympic weightlifters. Yes, you read that right. As part of his transphobic rant, Trump decided to perform an exaggerated impression of a female weightlifter failing to lift weights, giggling like a child who just discovered sarcasm. Then, in an unexpected moment of self-awareness, he admits that Melania hates when he does this. And naturally, he doubles down. If there's ever a Mount Rushmore of self-inflicted PR disasters, this one's getting carved in stone next to Sharpie, hurricane maps, and bleach injections. But let's zoom out. Why even talk about this now? Because Trump is banking on distraction politics. He knows his legal defense is flimsier than a paper straw in a McFlurry, so he's stirring up the culture. War pot again. Trans athletes, Biden, Melania, the media, all tossed into the MAGA blender with the lid off.
This is like weightlifting. You ever see the weightlifting? Where they have a record that wasn't broken in 18 years? And they have, should I imitate it? My wife gets very upset when I do this.
And let's be clear, this isn't just cringe, it's dangerous. Trump's rhetoric about trans athletes isn't just embarrassing, it has real-world consequences. When the former president of the United States uses his platform to vilify an entire group of people, it fuels hate, spreads misinformation, and deepens the already toxic political divide, all while cloaking itself in the thinnest excuse of concern for fairness in women's sports, which, let's be honest, is a concern he's only just discovered because it gets him applause. He's not worried about protecting athletes. He's protecting himself from legal fallout, political irrelevance, and the harsh truth that even his most loyal followers are starting to check out during his speeches. And then there's Melania. She's just collateral damage.
Transphobia has gone so far that he was willing to deprive children of breakfast, lunch, and dinner to get it across the finish line. Just gross. And clearly I am not the only one who thinks that, because Donald Trump made it clear how Melania feels about his attack on transgender students and athletes and transgender Americans when he said this. It kind of threw her under the bus in his speech.
But don't worry, Trump will be back. More speeches, more impersonations, more distractions, and of course, more lawsuits. And as for Melania, she'll keep doing what she does best, pretending none of this is happening while silently judging us all from the safety of a Florida palace built on denial and glittering gold leaf. Buckle up, Because if this speech taught us anything, it's that Trump's campaign isn't just off the rails. It's a flaming clown car heading straight for the courthouse with Melania's name spray-painted on the side. Let's not forget, Melania has made it painfully clear she wants absolutely nothing to do with this campaign. She's skipped events, avoided the press, ghosted campaign dinners like a pro, and when forced into public appearances, she radiates the warmth of a DMV line on a Monday morning.
Is that a win for Trump? Is that how, did he see that as a win? Did he see this as going to be a really positive result of acting like a disgusting, bigoted buffoon? It's hard to understand this guy sometimes and what he's really after. But clearly Donald Trump is leaning on this issue because, as he previously said, we saw this at an Oval Office press conference, he doesn't care about it at all. He just thinks that it's an electoral victory for him.
But here's where it gets even stranger. Trump is trying to make Melania's supposed disapproval of his jokes a selling point. Like, look, even my wife thinks I'm crossing a line. Haha, sir, that's not funny. That's a marriage counseling session you accidentally broadcast on national TV. He's treating his wife's discomfort as a campaign strategy. Vote for me. My wife thinks I'm embarrassing. And what's with the obsession with volleyball, you ask? Apparently, Trump thinks the greatest threat to Western civilization is transgender athletes playing volleyball too aggressively. It's like he fell asleep during a Fox News segment and woke up convinced that NCAA beach volleyball is the final battle in the culture war. Meanwhile, world leaders are discussing climate change, global hunger, and economic collapse, and Donald's throwing a tantrum over imaginary spike serves.
Months ago, I stood in the White House.
But Donald knows the game. Keep the crowd angry, keep the media distracted, and make everything about him, even if it means humiliating the one person still willing to stand by him in those Christmas photos. At this rate, Barron's memoir will probably be titled, "My Dad Tried to Imitate My Mom in Front of a Stadium and All I Got Was This Book Deal." So no, Melania wasn't there, but her absence loomed over that speech like a silent scream. Even in her absence, she somehow became the most composed, grounded, and reasonable figure in the entire mess. No small feat when your competition is a man arguing with a volleyball.
Playing in women's sports. Did you ever see some of the records? Did you ever see some of these boxing matches? You know, we have to protect. These women are great athletes, but we have to protect. If you looked at the Olympics where they had transitioned people going into the boxing, where the women had boxing, and they had a great champion, a female boxer. I mean, after one punch, she walked back to the corner, said, "I can't get hit like that. I've never been hit like that before."
She appears at Mar-a-Lago like a Netflix cameo, brief, awkward, and clearly ticking off a box. One minute, she's spotted in the background of a gala. The next, she's disappearing in a cloud of Versace and quiet regret. Meanwhile, Trump's out there trying to sell her as his secret weapon, his ace in the hole. Buddy, the only hole Melania seems interested in is the one she's metaphorically digging to escape this circus. At the end of the day, Melania's absence speaks louder than Trump's words ever could. In fact, her silence may be the most powerful political statement in this entire chaotic mess. And unlike Trump's speeches, it doesn't involve volleyball.